The
This conference
ISFSI.
will now be recorded.
Hi again, everyone. This is Dave Robertson of the ISFSI, the International Society of Fire Service Instructors. I am a proud member, as well as a serving member on the ISFSI's online training committee. I've also had the opportunity to have a couple of blog posts published. So I urge you all, if you are already members, to definitely activate and engage. It's such a fantastic organization. And if you know others that should be joining, definitely urge them to do the same. So we're back at happy hour. I mean, who doesn't like a happy hour, right? It's got the word happy in it. So the ISFSI is proud to bring back this great format. We're highlighting guests from around fire and emergency services fields, of course, with an emphasis on training. And for today, as if that wasn't enough, everybody that is online here is entered in to win $100 towards ISFSI logoed apparel. So with that little happy hour intro, I am going to move over to our president, Seth Barker. I'm happy and truly humbled between Seth and our guest to be able to move the mic over to our president, Seth. So go ahead, Chief.
Cheers. Thanks, Chief. Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining. I'm really happy to be back in this venue as well. This kind of started during the whole big COVID debacle. And we kind of pushed through, and then we lost a little momentum, and Chief there has brought this to the surface again. So I'm very excited to be back with like-minded individuals. And also to echo what Chief said, is stuff only works if we put it forward to the fire service of the ISFSI. So please contribute more and more and more. Try to get out here to make this program very, very successful. So I'll shut up now. That's known me very well in the last couple of years. We've spent a lot of time at the academy, so I'm going to turn it over to Eriks and the Chief and move it on. Thanks.
Excellent. Thank you, President Barker. Appreciate that. Hopefully we can fix a little bit of your audio in the recording. You were a little scratchy, but I think we definitely got what you said. We appreciate that. The National Fire Academy, the NFA, focuses on enhancing the ability of fire and emergency services and allied professionals to deal more effectively with fire and emergency services. Eriks Gabliks, our guest today, has been the superintendent of the NFA since 2020, I believe November 2020, if I'm correct. In that role, he provides the key leadership for the NFA, as well as being very active and a very positive face for the organization. Anybody that has walked the grounds in person at the NFA eventually sees Eric walking around, always a bright and shining face, big smile, and super positive, which just makes the whole experience that much better. Mr. Gabliks' interest in the fire service started in 1982 with the Adelphia, New Jersey Volunteer Fire Company a couple years ago. Since then, he has served with 4 volunteer combination or career departments. In 1991, Eriks joined the Oregon Department of Public Safety Standards and Training. It's an organization that sets the professional training and standards for the roughly 40,000 Oregon public and private safety professionals in Oregon. There he served as agency director from 2010 until 2020, overseeing a staff of more than 450 employees, and is the first employee in that agency's history to have risen from the internal ranks to the rank of director, as well as serving under 3 different governors. He holds a master's in public policy and administration. He is an executive fire officer, EFO, program graduate from the NFA, as well as the Executive Development Institute at the FBI Academy in Quantico. And finally, definitely not least though, Mr. Gabliks is past president of the North American Fire Training Directors and still serves on various state and national organizations. Thank you very much for being here, Mr. Gabliks. Truly an honor.
Thank you, Chief Dave. Thanks for the nice introduction.
Absolutely. I find introductions with guests of your caliber take a few minutes.
Yeah, and I'm okay if you just told people I was the superintendent of the National Fire Academy, because honestly, I work for all of you. You know, a lot of friendly faces and names on the screen, so good to see so many friends, and look forward to meeting a lot of you in a couple of weeks as we head to Indianapolis. So I've had a lot of interaction with ISFSI. I'm a member of ISFSI, and you know, I understand the importance of the work that fire and EMS instructors do across the country in both career and volunteer fire organizations. So glad to be here with you today.
It's truly our honor. And yes, FDIC right around the corner. The event, so much fun, and an insane amount of learning. I'm sure we have faces on screen here already that are definitely participating, if not presenting and teaching. So good stuff there. Emily, just a reminder. So we have Emily in the background, who was with the ISFSI, which probably would not be up and running if Emily was not part of the organization. I do not have a hands up icon on my screen, just so you know. So if you could kind of move any questions that you have possibly over to the chat, or just unmute your mic and just politely say, "Excuse me, I have a question." That would work for us. But I'm going to start with the first question for you, Eriks.
Yeah.
Now, the NFA has been around for a while. And of course, under your leadership, it's getting more conspicuous all the time as a fantastic destination, and conspicuous in a good way. That's, you know, the formal definition of conspicuous is not a bad thing. It's getting more conspicuous as a fantastic destination for America's fire service to gain knowledge, guidance, and certification in all things fire service. Many are still on the learning curve as to what the NFA really is and what it offers. Can you give our happy hour audience a quick rundown of the NFA?
Yeah, absolutely. And let me start by sharing with all of you why there is a NFA. So this year, 2024, is actually the 50th anniversary of the United States Fire Administration. And for those of you who have done research into fire service history in our country, you may have read a document called America Burning. America Burning was written more than 50 years ago by members of the fire service. They came together along with elected officials with a number of concerns in our country about the fire problem in the United States. We were seeing thousands of civilian fire deaths every year. We were seeing hundreds of firefighter deaths, thousands of firefighter injuries. We saw a lack of codes and standards. We also saw no consistency in fire service training. So within America Burning, our predecessors, our forefathers of the fire service, asked Congress to establish an organization specifically to work on America's fire problem and specifically to support state, local, tribal, and territorial fire and EMS providers. Those of you who have been on campus have seen our logo. It's called Hotfoot. It's the bald eagle on top of a fire, and above that eagle are 4 stars. Within America Burning, those 4 stars are our mission: research, data, what used to be called prevention, we now call community risk reduction. And then the 4th one is fire and EMS training. So I oversee the training arm of the National Fire Academy. Within America Burning was a vision that the federal government create within the Washington, D.C. area, a National Fire Academy similar to our military service schools. We do not, by law, do training available at the local level. So you're not going to come here to get your firefighter 1 or your fire officer 2. We specifically develop programs that are not available locally. So we're not here to take away from what ISFSI and fire instructors do across the country. We're here to not only support instructors, but also career and volunteer fire and EMS agencies. So within America Burning was that vision. We're located in Emmitsburg, Maryland, just about 15 minutes south of Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, so right on the Mason-Dixon line. This organization has done a lot of work. We are currently reaching about 90,000 students a year, both on and off campus, but we also embrace partnerships with all of our partners that are engaged in the fire and EMS arena. So there are things that we don't do at the National Fire Academy because other people do. And since Dr. Dan is on the line, you know, the UL FSRI folks have done amazing work. I know ISFI is a partner with that. But when people ask why we aren't doing that, we go, why don't you just go to the UL FSRI webpage? Because they're doing that. You know, we're putting people to amazing resources that are already in place. So why would we replicate the wheel and do something that's already out there? The same is true, for example, we get asked, you know, what are you doing in the fire mental health arena and in the, you know, in the cancer arena? So we do work in that area. We train people how to manage safety and health programs, but we also connect them with National Fallen Firefighters, First Responder Center for Excellence, which have really kind of leaned into those two topics and make training classes available on the local level. So we broker, but we also deliver. So it's a great campus. It's historic, but I honestly call it hallowed ground. And it's hallowed ground for two reasons. One is this campus used to be called St. Joseph's College. About 45 years ago, St. Joseph's College merged with Mount St. Mary's University. This property went on the for sale sign, if you will, market. The federal government made an offer. That offer was accepted under the understanding that the campus be maintained under historic preservation. So if you ever come here on campus, beautiful buildings. Two of our buildings are pre-Civil War. One of those is a barn on the back of the campus used by our maintenance staff. But the other building is more special to all of us, and that is the chapel here on campus. From a history standpoint, the Sisters of Charity treated the injured from both the North and the South after the Civil War in Gettysburg. The Army of the Potomac actually stayed here on campus. But today that chapel is more, I think, important to us in the fire service because that is now the National Fallen Firefighters Chapel. The hallowed ground here is not only the chapel, but also the home of the National Fallen Firefighters Memorial, the 9/11 Memorial, and also paver stones throughout our campus courtyard that honors our career and volunteer firefighters who died in the line of duty before the National Memorial became a reality. So we have the names of firefighters that died in the line of duty in the mid 1800s from pulling a horse-drawn wagon to an incident and they had a heart attack. We have firefighters here that were run over by a team of horses going to a fire. So truly our nation's fire service history is here on this campus for all to learn from. But I think from the NFA perspective, our role is to make sure that those firefighters didn't die in vain. So there are lessons learned in those fatalities. And if you look at where we are today, we still have more than 2,000 civilian fire deaths every year, much lower than it was, but still way too many. We have collectively reduced the number of firefighter deaths every year. We've reduced the amount of injuries because we have taken the research that's been created and we're applying it to training. We're applying it to leadership. We're applying it to incident command. And that's what the NFA does today is we make sure we honor our fallen by mitigating future deaths and injuries by learning and by doing. So it's a great place and we're very proud of it. And again, it's something that we hope everybody in the fire service takes advantage of because what surprises me even today is in 2024, when I get a chance to travel, we have still people that don't know that there's a National Fire Academy in our country. They don't know it's free of charge. We reimburse them for their travel. We provide lodging. The only cost of people coming here is to get here and to buy their meal tickets on campus. But other than that, everything else is covered. So I know all of you know what we do, but you are force multipliers for us. So I hope all of you get a chance to come at least once. And what I tell people is if you come once, you're going to be back.
Yeah, and you made a very important point there, and obviously the NFA and yourself are the focus of today's happy hour. But I love that you also brought up that it is a cog in the training wheel for the fire service, right? Between UL and between the ISFSI and between your local state fire marshal's offices and all their offerings, and then of course some of the great private institutions out there as well that offer up stuff. So it's if you are here to look for training and you're here to look for the NFA specifically training, there are so many options out there. But you said a lot in there that I was actually not even aware of, including some of the paver stones from firefighters long past. So I love that story. Thank you, Superintendent Gabliks. I appreciate that. Looking for questions. We don't have a question up yet, so I'm going to move on to another one. How could someone who's interested in NFA coursework, wanting to go right to the NFA, or of course, you've got a very strong online offering as well.
Mhm.
Very strong. I've taken stuff online through there as well. How do we get guidance as to what courses to take, when they are, the application process? How do we move through that whole process?
Uh, Great question. And what we've tried to do over the last few years is to meet our consumers, our customers, the fire EMS service where they are. So during the pandemic, I think all of us figured out Zoom and virtual, and we did what we needed to do to keep people safe, right? This meeting, I think, probably didn't happen before the pandemic, but what a great way for us to get together. So we did move into some virtual platforms. But what we know as fire service trainers, and again, I'm preaching to the choir, is not everything fits in a virtual platform. So those things that make sense to do virtually, remotely, we do online. Right now, I checked the numbers, and we have over 15,000 students currently enrolled this year, taking online classes that we make available. We also try to meet people as close to home as we can, because we know what it's like to get time off from work and to travel, especially from across country. I'll use our fire and EMS students that come from Guam. They're on a plane for 22 hours to get here to the National Fire Academy, but they come because they're going to be in a class with their peers from across the country. And while they're learn from our instructors who do a great job facilitating classes, they're also going to learn from their peers from across the nation that might be doing things differently, might have innovations to share, and they build that network of peers. So resident classes are another option, but getting as close as we can to our career and volunteer fire and EMS providers, we have an amazing partnership with our state fire training academies. So we deliver to each state at least 9 two-day classes, and to each region 3 6-day classes. What we've gotten is very creative, where if some states can't fill 9 classes, we put them back in the bucket and make them available to other states that can take them. For example, South Carolina chomps at the bit, and they have told us any class that some state doesn't want, we will offer. So last year, South Carolina, I believe, hosted more than 20 classes for the NFA, 2-day classes on their campus, and they filled everyone. So we don't want that money to basically die on the vine and go into next year's budget. We want to put that money into play for what it's given to us for, which is getting training out the door. So we do that. So on campus, off campus, 2-day, 6-day. Again, we know it's tough for people to get here. We offer 5-day, 6-day, 10-day classes on campus. More than 25,000 of our students are through off-campus deliveries, right? So that is the strongest delivery we have. Only about 8,000 folks travel to Emmitsburg every year. We run up to 9 classes per week here on campus. That's kind of our limit. But we love to see every bed full and every classroom seat full. Because much like an airline, it drives me crazy when I go down the hallway and I see 5 empty seats in a room, because I know that there's 5 members of the fire service that should be sitting in that seat and getting an opportunity to learn. The other thing that I ask everyone to help with is when people hear National Fire Academy, and I had this when I accepted position, I had people say, oh my gosh, it's the National Fire Academy. There must be 1,000 fire engines there and 500 ladder trucks and a 30-story burn building. And that couldn't be further from the truth. We're more like a college campus, and that's the environment we have. While we do have some hands-on training areas, our most popular is our fire investigations training program here, hands-on scenario-based in partnership with the ATF. That class currently has a 3-year waiting list because of its popularity, but also because for our fire investigations curriculum, we are bringing in fire investigators, which includes fire marshals, fire officials, but also law enforcement folks that are assigned to fire investigations. So we see quite a backlog there. Also, the other place that we get into scenario-based training is in our simulation lab. We have an incident management simulation that is virtual. So we are actually putting in our current and future incident commanders into the various positions that they're going to be in when they run an incident. So that could start as a basic, if you will, structure fire, all the way to a lumber mill fire, where all of a sudden you have it under control and the wind shifts and you have embers now taking off and hitting an interface area, and the incident commanders have a lot of decisions to make very quickly. So it's a little bit of everything. What we have done based on the feedback from you all and those you serve is we have tried to do things that make our operations more user friendly. So we've redesigned our webpage. So we have put the tiles up for the 12 different curriculum areas. So if you're looking for hazmat, click on hazmat. If you're looking for EMS, click on EMS. So just connect the picture, and then that tile will open up all the different offerings that we have there. The other thing that is somewhat misleading is when people hear the word Fire Academy, they think that they have to be a firefighter or a fire officer to come here. And as our fire service is evolving, we are now seeing organizations bring on people that are not firefighters, but they're being hired or volunteering to be community risk reduction specialists, so they can come here as well. And what I tell people is you need to meet the criteria for the class and be affiliated with a fire and EMS agency, but you don't have to be a sworn or certified firefighter to come here. So the more people can help us get that message out, the better I think we are. We also have a partnership with more than 130 colleges, universities, both at the associate and the baccalaureate level, which we call FESI, Fire and Emergency Services in Higher Education. What they have done through the FESI partnership is we have created a national standard of curriculum. So if you're taking a associate's fire science class in Iowa versus Alaska, those core classes are going to be the same based on that university system, because we've come up with a partnership that does that. So again, we see that as a feeder program, but also a networking program. But the other thing that has been amazing to watch over the last 10 years especially, and this goes back to Dennis O'Neill's vision, Dr. O'Neill, when he was a superintendent, and what Dr. O'Neill identified more than 20 years ago has actually come to fruition. It's pretty exciting. And what Dr. O'Neill said is, unless we have people seeking master's degrees and doctorate degrees and doing research, the fire service will never be recognized as a profession. So where we are today, because of our academic partnerships, we have more people in the fire service that are pursuing master's degrees and doctoral degrees than ever before. Through the work of ISFSI, a lot of our partners, ULFSRI is one of them, but other organizations, we have now an amazing body of work and research over the last 10 years, thanks to AFG research and development grants that we never had before. So we're fortunate here at our library that if you're working on a project for cancer, for mental health, for vehicle replacement, you name it, all you have to do is come on our webpage for our library. We've digitized 90% of our 100,000 items that we have in stock, which means if it's digital, we can email it to you as an attachment. So take advantage of what we have to offer. But again, we need your help to get the message out, because there's still people that don't know what we do. And there's also people that don't think that they can come here because they're not a firefighter or fire officer. So we are truly your National Fire Academy, and we're here to help you with your needs.
Definitely need to get people on that campus. Absolutely, not just to fill those seats, but like you said, it's hollow ground. And the town of Emmitsburg itself has a great little organization down the street that has its own version of happy hour, which I'm sure a lot of people that are online here know about. Great conversations are typically held there as well. I do have a question from Chief Watlington. Which is there a need for more NFA instructors in particular topics?
Yes, and always. And let me tell you why and what we do. So for those of you that don't know, and I know I have a few of you on the call, but the National Fire Academy has more than 400 contract instructors. So what I mean by contract instructors is that we set a schedule of on and off campus classes. And then our business arm of the National Fire Academy sends out invitations to bid for people that are qualified instructors that we have on the roster. And then those instructors put in bids to teach a class here to Emmitsburg, or to teach a class in Honolulu, Hawaii, or to teach a class in Anchorage, Alaska. So you submit the bid for what it's going to take to teach the class and what it's going to take for you to get there. So we have a very creative contracting system that we use, and it allows us to really get things done. With a lot of you being active practitioners, I know it's hard for you to take time off to come teach for us. I also think it's important that when you take time off, you do something with your family. So we have that life-work balance discussion. But if you are not able to be a resident instructor for a week or two, A lot of those folks are retirees and they have a lot more time. But look at the weekend opportunities, right? Where maybe there's a class that's on the bid list for the state next to you or 2 states next to you. But go, look, I could fly out there Friday night or even drive across the state line. I could deliver the class, jump in the car Sunday after I'm done, or catch a flight and be back at home Sunday night and at work Monday morning. So we try to mix it up and have instructors for all of those different categories. The other thing that we really work very hard on, and please do not take any anger at what I'm going to say to anybody, but what we also want to make sure is that our instructor cadre is current and relevant. And we have a lot of people that are retired and they do a great job. But the reality is the longer those folks are away from the fire rescue industry, the more changes there are. So in areas such as our fire codes, fire plans, investigations, hazmat, those areas are turning so quickly. We want to have active practitioners or people that are still involved either through instruction or by training or consulting, and know what's going on in today's industry. Because, you know, what I'm very aware of is, and I do this, and I think a lot of you do this, when you sit down in a seminar and somebody's speaking, you're going to grab your iPhone and you're going to Google them and say exactly who is this person and when's the last time that they rode on a fire truck or ran a fire call. So we want to make sure that our workforce is current and relevant. And, you know, in leadership, we have a lot of folks that have been retired for a number of years, but they still stay active by either being acting chiefs in different places, being active on committees. But we have had some instructors that unfortunately have left because, you know, it's just not able to keep up with what's going on. And our commitment for our students is that we want to make sure that when you come to the National Fire Academy, that you are getting the quality of the class that you would expect at the National Fire Academy. So you could go on our webpage. We have a drop-down box for instructors. Fill out the information, send it in to us, and we'll schedule an interview. And we're always looking to add instructors from diverse backgrounds. And what I mean by that is not just we'd love to see more women. We'd love to see more communities of color involved in our instructor cadre, but we also want to see national geography. So I'm very aware of that a lot of people believe that the instructors here at the NFA are all within a 2-hour drive of the campus, right? So I want to make sure we have instructors from California, from Alaska, from Florida, because that's also another element of diversity. So by all means, we're always looking for people. Last year, we hired about 40 additional contract instructors, but we also lost 10, right? So we want to make sure that those pools are full because we never want to cancel a class.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. And thanks for that question, Chief Watlington. You mentioned work-life balance and how a lot of people take a lot of time off. And obviously the people that are logging in today and the typical person that's part of the ISFSI is often, they take the fire service mission very seriously. And so they're constantly taking that extra time off. And that includes FDIC, which we've already mentioned. It's coming up. Is the NFA or the U.S. Fire Administration, I'm sure they're going to have a presence of some sort at FDIC, and if so, the NFA specifically, what sort of presence are you going to have there?
Yeah, so great question. So Dr. Lori Moore Merrill, she's going to be there as part of the opening ceremony on one of the days. I think what she's going to probably share with all of you, and ISFSI is a partner in this, and Seth has spent quite a bit of time, as have many of your other leaders, on the work that Dr. Lori's doing with the summit, U.S. Fire Administrator Summit on Fire Prevention and Control. We've brought together the national organizations to help really identify the national issues of concern where we can all agree on. So that includes volunteer, that includes labor, that includes chiefs, that includes fire marshals. So the summit is working on issues such as cancer, mental health, recruitment or retention, climate-related response changes such as wildfires. So she's going to talk about that. I'm going to do 2 sessions, one at the Women in Fire pre-conference, if you will, and then one on Friday morning on recruitment or retention, what's working, what's not. I've been very fortunate with Mary Camelli, the chief of Mesa, Arizona, to co-chair the recruitment or retention summit group. And I know a lot of people, as I travel, it's like doom and gloom. We can't find firefighters. Nobody wants to be a firefighter. Nobody wants to be EMT paramedic. And we get that. You know, we have to work harder to find people that come into the industry, but I would say we're not alone, right? I know the people aren't lining up in droves like they were maybe 20 years ago to be a firefighter paramedic. But what we have identified through the recruitment and retention work group is there are a lot of successful and innovative programs that are working that are bringing people into the fire rescue service, both career and volunteer. So I'm going to do 2 presentations that kind of showcases that work. But you know, one of the things I'll kind of pivot on, Chief, is to this audience being instructors. So when you look at the number 1 concern, cancer, number 2, mental health, number 3, recruitment or retention, you have to be able to answer number 1 and 2 before you get to number 3, because folks today looking for careers are very smart and they are Googling careers. And guess what? So are their parents. So when somebody says, well, gee, Susie, gee, Johnny, do you really want to be a firefighter? Their number 1 concern is cancer and the number 2 concern is mental health. And the answer is, you as a fire instructor and your fire department has to be ready to answer that question. So you can lean in and say, yep, we're aware of those. We're engaged in that. We have policies and procedures on decontamination. We do baseline physicals. We do annual cancer screenings. On a mental health, we have peer support programs. But as instructors, think about day 1 of recruit school. Are we including resilience as part of their basic training, right? So we have to, I think, pivot to make sure that that new workforce coming in is being trained. And I'll kind of take another pivot and take a little rabbit trail on this, but we also are seeing different types of applicants coming in. And I know a lot of you probably heard this when you went through your firefighter academy, but I'm sure the drill master or the captain said, you, Eriks, Gabliks, are going to ruin the fire service, or you, whoever, are going to ruin the fire service, and we did okay. So we now have a new generation coming in that we have to train. And we have to lean in. They're going to ask us a lot of questions because that's the way they are, okay? We also are seeing fire academies and instructors across the country really leaning into this because we also have to include life skills as part of our recruit training. We are hiring people that have never washed their own clothes. We are hiring people that have never cooked their own meal. We're going to put them in a fire station environment where we're going to ask them to cook a meal for the crew. So a lot of recruit schools are adding those life skills, and we're not alone, so don't think it's a fire rescue issue. We have discussions with our partners in the military. The Coast Guard and the Navy are adding life skills into their recruit training. The other thing that I would say is also the mechanical skills of our new applicants are different than they were for people 10 years ago. We have recruits calling it the plus minus screwdriver instead of a flathead or a Phelps. The newest one that we heard last week when our leadership classes were talking, one of their new hires calls it the IKEA tool. If you don't know what the IKEA tool is, the IKEA tool is actually an Allen wrench. But again, if you want to blame somebody, we could blame their parents for not giving them those skills, but we're bringing them into the fire service. We have to meet them where they are, because if we don't, they're going to leave, right? As training officers, yes, that's what we're there for, is to get people through the academy across the finish line to meet all the performance standards, all the testing standards, and then get to the station where the coaches can finish it up and get them that on-the-job experience. But we have to look at things differently. And the other thing that ties into this, and that's part of the recruitment and retention discussion, the other one is we also have to realize that if we don't answer the questions, they may go to somebody in the department that does not want to help them. And sadly, in a lot of our departments, we still have a cultural where there's bullying, right? So we want to make sure that we have an inclusive environment in our fire stations where all are welcome, and making sure, whether they're career or volunteer, that we engage in them. The worst thing, think about a volunteer fire company. You bring a new member in, it's drill night, and the person stands by themselves because nobody wants to talk to them because you're new. Assign them a mentor, bring them in, get them engaged, get their hands on stuff, and train them. We were the same way. To finish up the FDIC question, besides the session, we're also going to have a booth on the show floor. So the U.S. Fire Administration, National Fire Academy, we're going to have a number of staff there. This year, we're bringing in our partners from AFG, Assistance to Firefighter Grants. So they're going to be part of our booth. So Kathy Patterson and her crew are going to be there answering questions about AFG grants for people coming in. So again, we always love Indianapolis. It's great to see everybody. And don't be surprised if you see me at some of your after hours gatherings, because I've got the special invite. So thank you.
Thanks for answering that FDIC question, and I wanted to highlight that because I know, between yourself and Dr. Lori Moore Merrill and others in the U.S. Fire Administration and the NFA, you have a presence there, and I either wanted people that are online or going to pick up the recording to actually seek you out and have conversations with you, or as an urging for people that are not going this year or haven't been yet to definitely go, because the summit on recruitment and retention, for example, that kind of stuff is critical. And it's no secret that was an incredibly important rabbit trail that you went down, the recruitment and retention rabbit hole. You mentioned, somebody it's usually the training officer on the tarmac in your academy. When we went through saying you're going to ruin the fire service, I actually had my TO. I was saying or doing something a very specific way, and he said, "Dave, you're going to be a chief someday." And I don't think he meant it necessarily in a good way. Uh, so, and lo
Chaos,
and
right?
behold,
Chaos. Chiefs have arrived on scene.
exactly. Exactly. Um, but it's a very important rabbit hole because, while we're here to talk about the NFA and this is the ISFSI, we're all training officers to some extent online here, and who's the first person that recruit typically fully interacts with in the fire department is us. So it's a very important and very relevant to what we do. I do have a question from Dr. Dan, I think is how you refer to him. Thank you for calling him Dr. Dan, because Dan, I would wreck your last name, and I don't like doing that because somebody's family name is very important to me. Superintendent Gabliks, Eriks, can you provide an update on the EFO? And maybe for those people, because we're also trying to give a bit of a primer on the NFA, give me a very quick rundown of what the EFO is, and then a quick update on the EFO.
Sure. So EFO is one of our nation's premier leadership development programs for current and future fire and EMS leaders. The requirement is that you have to have a bachelor's degree to be able to apply for the program. We accept 150 students every year, and that is from around the globe. So EFO is specifically for U.S. fire organizations, but we do allow a number of international partners in because we think that adds an international flavor to our classroom discussion. So we have folks from New South Wales Fire that come through quite often. We've had folks from Hong Kong Fire come through. So again, other leaders may be in these classes, but the focus is U.S. fire and EMS leaders. So the program was, and I'm an EFO graduate, some of the others are EFO graduates. So EFO was 4 years, 4 papers, and then you completed the executive fire officer program. When I got here, Chief Hoover was the superintendent at the time. Now she's the deputy administrator. We had started the update of the EFO program for a couple of reasons. One, that it needed a refresh. And the example I use for the fire service is one of a fire engine. We had a fire engine that has served us well for many, many years with the EFO. That engine had been refurbed a number of times over the years, but we were at a place where that engine couldn't be refurbed anymore. So we had to get a new engine. So we took all of the good things from the old EFO engine and we brought them over into the new EFO program. We also reached out to our stakeholders. So that included not only graduates, but also fire chiefs, but also mayors and city managers that hire fire executives. And we asked them, what should the new engine have? What they said is more writing. They also said shorter time, and they also said increased academic rigor. So instead of going through a 4-year program with 4 papers, now you go through a 2-year program that has writing throughout and a capstone at the end. The bachelor's requirement is still there, but the academic rigor within our program is now at the graduate level. So we are recognized by the American Council of Education at the graduate level for EFO, and we have more writing woven throughout. And again, please don't be offended by my comment, but people in the fire service struggle to write. We do a very good job of writing incident reports of things that happened in the past, I think some of you in the fire marshal roles would say we don't do a good enough job in report writing, but we had to focus in on getting our fire leaders to be better writers. And that is writing a report for the city council or for the city manager, writing a strategic plan. So we put emphasis in that. And then also we embrace technology where you're not on campus for the whole duration. You're on campus, then you're virtual, then you're off campus and you're virtual. So in a 2-year program, and again, 2 years with an asterisk, because you can get the program done in 2 years if everything lines up for you. So that means you're not getting married, you're not having a college graduation for your kids, all those kind of things. But you can get it done in 2 years if you get everything lined up. But we're excited about the new program that we have, and it's been pretty exciting. Some of our alumni called the new model EFO Light. Once they have seen the academic rigor of the new one, they're all happy they went through the old EFO program. The other thing I'll share with you about EFO, it is a competitive process. So on January 1st, we opened up the application process for EFO. And what we said we would do is we would accept 500 applications, and we would do that until the end of February or until we hit 500. We hit 500 applications by January 17th. This week here on campus, we're doing something for the first time ever. We brought in graduates of the EFO program who are members of the Executive Fire Officer section of the IAFC, and they are actually here on campus scoring the applications that came in just like AFG uses. So we went to a peer review panel. So they are grinding through the applications right now, and they're going to score them and they're going to rack them and stack them. Sadly, what I could tell you is that at least 40 applications didn't even make it to the panel because the people didn't fill them out. They didn't take the time. Much like AFG grants, a lot of those applications never make it to panel because people did not take the time to read the directions, but the rest of them have been scored, and we're going to make some people very happy in a few weeks and some people unhappy. But we're excited based on the interest in the EFO program. The other thing, and I'll tie into, is coming up in April. Each year we host what we call the Executive Fire Officer Leadership Symposium here on campus. We bring in a number of instructors from not only the US, but also Canada, as warranted, that are fire and EMS leaders of innovative ideas, topics, and issues that we want our leaders to hear. That includes leadership, that includes cancer, that includes behavioral health, that includes diversity. Dr. Dan is going to be sharing an update. We call it from the lab, to leadership lessons from the lab, we call it. So Dan is going to share the work that he and his colleagues are doing with our leaders so that, people know about our new building construction, the fire behavior, what we're seeing, what the risks are. So the EFO Symposium, we can take up to 300 students or participants on that. It's a Friday, Saturday. There's no cost to attend that. Right now, we are at 248 applications for that. So we've got room for roughly 52 more people if you want to come. Again, no cost. And we also have a lot of networking activities. So you are meeting your peers from around the country. So lots of ways to participate. We actually would love to grow the Executive Fire Officer program and add more classes. We just haven't been able to get the money to do that. But it's a great question. So thank you, Dan.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, in the EFO Symposium, I've been able to partake in that, and it just the networking opportunities alone are worth the travel, aside from the fantastic lineup of speakers. Chief Barker, I believe you wanted to say something?
Yeah, can you hear me okay now?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay, great. So I just want to echo what Eriks is saying. If I can pick 2 moments in my career that put me exactly where I am today. One is joining ISFSI, and 2 is the EFO program. That EFO program, I got stuck in the 6-year saga during COVID, so I got to spend a lot of time at the National Fire Academy. But what was so impactful about that is they asked us every year, what can we do better? And they listened to every year, and they made it better every year. And I think there's this stigma out there with and nobody on this call get offended, but with the old guard who went through, we'll call it 20-year plus ago program, into what the new guard of what people are going through now, it's dramatically different and dramatically better. And I just want to echo what Eriks is saying, is I think that this program is top shelf stuff for the fire industry out there.
Excellent, thank you. I do have a question, actually. You mentioned that bachelor's is a requirement, but I know that there's a lot of fire service personnel like myself that did a lot of self-educating, and I just have an associate's. What happens with someone like myself that could probably, I would like to think, some much smarter people on screen here that I see that might have an associate's or a community college level diploma, but that could very ably navigate the EFO program and can take the importance of that curriculum back to their department and into the fire service. Do they have any options out there in terms of life experience, work experience, or is it strict with the bachelor's?
Unfortunately, right now it's a strict bachelor's requirement, and I think in part because we want to make sure that those that are accepted in a program can thrive at the graduate level with the rigor that we have. And again, it's not taking away from life experience, because that's really part of the application process. We are asking those people applying for their experience, their education, why do they want to come to the program, what they hope to get out of it. Not everybody in the EFO program is a 4-bugle chief or a 5-bugle chief. We have actually a 2-bugle chief that's also the president of the union, and they use their leadership experience as the union president as their vehicle to explain their leadership abilities, and that was pretty amazing. We also have a captain from a metro department, but the reason that they scored so high in the application, because they oversee a county hazmat team that serves 2 counties, both career and volunteer, and that's their assignment. So you are really competing to get into the program, and if I think we had more seats available, I think the associates discussion might be entertained. But right now, unfortunately, with only 150 seats available and only the ability to score 500 applications, that's where we're at for today.
Understood. Yeah, absolutely understood. Just a heads up, we are coming into, I believe, the last 10 minutes, so I just have a couple more questions, and I don't have anything sitting in the chat right now, so I'm going to ask you one. What's new at the NFA?
Well, what's broken is the ice cream machine. I get that a lot, so that's a little joke for you.
I don't think I've ever actually had the ice cream at the NFA, to tell you the truth. It's that's always the running joke is, hey, the ice cream machine's broken.
Yeah, and we just ordered a new one, so it's more than $20,000. But all kidding aside, we've got a lot of cool stuff happening here on campus. We've done a complete rebuild of executive fire officer, fire investigations. We've done a lot of upgrades there, not only facilities, but also the training classes. So we have a great partnership with ATF that does that. So we added an evidence collection class last year, and that's hands-on. We also added an electrical class here on campus for fire investigators. That's also hands-on. So you're going to learn how to pull wire. And we have electricians that are fire investigators coming to teach that. Something also that we added in fire investigations based on current times is a new 2-day class that we call Fire as a Weapon. And this is to get our first responders to understand when they are incident scenes, perhaps at a church, a government assembly, a medical facility, that they may actually be at a crime scene, but they don't realize that. So that's something we're seeing in our country. So we've got a class on that. We also have updated some of our health and safety classes to include active shooter elements as far as incident management leadership. We also created a new class called Special Teams Operations Management. And that class goes through a THIRA, so everybody understands how to do a risk assessment. And then as part of that class, those folks are coming because they may have been assigned by their chief or their deputy chief to create a special team for water rescue, for high angle. So they're learning how to put together a proposal on what it takes to put together a team, how to manage a team, and how to operate a special team. So that's pretty exciting. A new 2-day class that we have offered one pilot on, and we're going to get another one scheduled, is a new class called Belonging in the Fire Service, which ties in with diversity, equity, inclusion. So we did the pilot class there with some amazing feedback, and we're going to offer a second one of those and then basically push it around the country. And we've got a few other things that are happening. Wildfire investigations to fill a gap. We have a partnership now with US Forest Service and CAL FIRE. So we're actually sending fire investigators to an NFA class being offered in Redding, California, which is the FI 210 hands-on fire investigations training for people that are not from wildfire agencies. So the diversity of the fire service across the country. We have fire investigators that investigate interface fires that are not covered by the U.S. Forest Service or state forestry, and they really can't get into those classes. So we have a partnership now that they can. And we stipend the travel and cover the lodging for the students that go to that. So we did one of those last year. We have another one coming up in a few weeks, and we've got 35 people, so that one's full. A new partnership with Society of Fire Protection Engineers on building codes and standards, especially with resilience focused on wildfire. A new partnership with International Association of Firefighters on a class we're calling Responding to the Interface. So that is that structural firefighter that's going to be going and supporting interface operations. I think of interest to all of you on this call and your members is those will be train-to-trainer classes. So the idea is that you'll attend the class, you'll get all the materials, and then you can go back to your agency and do the training locally. So we want to force multiply, especially in those gap areas, to give you all tools that you could use locally to apply for your fighters, whether they're career or volunteer. And then other than that, just keeping everything current or relevant, right? So we've got over 110 classes that we offer. So we update those every 3 to 4 years. So making sure slides are current, right? Pictures are current. We're covering the current information and just a lot happening. So good question. And what I realize is it will never be done. So it's a great place to be.
And of course, keeping keeping a tab open for the NFA's website as well, and keeping that on your radar, because if you are staying that current, and if you're rolling through constantly changing across all that curriculum, there's bound to be something new happening.
Yeah, and I forgot to mention this, and you just triggered me. But last year we did something pretty cool, and a lot of you helped get the message out. But we hosted our first ever Women's Weekend at the National Fire Academy. We did that in partnership with Women in Fire. We had over 250 participants here. It was open to everybody. 90% were female, literally from coast to coast, but 80% of those women had never been to a National Fire Academy class. So we've just announced it on our webpage and social media. ISFSI, I know, is going to help push the message out, but we're doing another one in June, and we're going to offer 10 different classes, all 2-day classes. So I would love to blow the roof off of this place and have this campus full of 500 women from career, volunteer, fire, and EMS agencies here on campus because they belong on campus just like everybody else does. And those of you who follow us on social media, you know we're very transparent. I call this your National Fire Academy. I work for you. We work for you. Everybody should be here. And our rule is on campus, once you're here, everybody is treated with dignity and respect because everybody belongs here.
I love that. I love that. And definitely, you said there's about 90% women and about 10% men. And that's because those men that are showing up as allies, which is incredibly important. Chief Flannery out of South San Francisco has a question. After this particular EFO acceptance process, when does the next one roll through? How do those things work?
Yeah, I'll add the other question. So all the applications that weren't selected will be shred. So we start it all over again. It's a competitive process every year. So look for the fall for us to open it up again. And again, we'll broadcast it out in advance. We want to network with our partners on social media, et cetera. But yeah, probably we're looking at the fall.
Got it. And of course, that speaks to keeping that the proverbial tab open on your computer, because I'm sure you'll get noticed that way. We are coming into the last couple minutes of our happy hour, Eriks. So I'm going to throw one last thing at you because I've got nothing new in the chat. As the NFA superintendent, and you've already said this, and I sincerely love it when you do, in all your social media postings, anytime you have an opportunity to speak to people like here, you always say it's your NFA. You're talking to the American Fire Service and the American people. And you even very graciously with certain things like the EFO also extend that internationally, but it's your NFA. Can you leave us with some parting words that would encourage fire service members to pursue NFA coursework?
Sure, and thank you for the kind words. I think all of us on this call had somebody that mentored us, and we may not know that we were being mentored at the time. I never knew about the National Fire Academy. I took an NFA class at the Monmouth County Fire Academy. It was a great opportunity, and one of those people that mentored me said, you should go to a state weekend at Emmitsburg because I think you'll really enjoy it. And I said, look, why would I go to Emmitsburg? Because I can take this class here locally. And I did. And I was hooked, right? So what I share with people is that, and I'm in that role now, we're mentoring those people coming in. So if I'm an instructor at a fire academy, I'm mentoring those men and women that we've hired or brought in as volunteers to basically get on that rig and be successful, meaning they're efficient, they're effective, but they're also safe and healthy. The same is true for all of us as instructors. We have to recharge our batteries as instructors, and sometimes that means going to a class just to sit through and see what's new, see what you can learn, see who you can meet, and almost kind of do a self-check about, hey, how's my training program look when I compare to some of these other folks in the class? And the other thing I always say is don't limit yourself to this, right? If you're an instructor, don't think you just need to go to instructor development courses to learn how to teach another class. Go outside your bubble every so often, right? Go to a leadership class, go to a community risk reduction class, learn something you don't know. And also go to classes offered by some of your partners that are not fire. I've gone to some classes offered by the Chamber of Commerce where they bring in civic leaders and it's open to everybody. So, when you sit next to somebody that is a bank president or the manager of the supermarket next to a fire chief, you're learning things about what they do and they're learning things about what you do. So I would say never stop learning, but also continue to mentor people, even though you may not realize you're doing it. And if you're doing it on purpose, good for you, and keep doing it, right? That's what we need, is people that help people move forward and lifting them up. So I'll close with that one.
Excellent. Excellent words. Yeah, I had to laugh when you said, really, are you sure, Chief? I'll enjoy a weekend at the NFA. Yeah, and you never left. Well, actually, you did. There was an interim there, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I've had people on campus, and you can't make this up. I've had students come up to me and they have said, I have been here 20 times. I have been here 22 times. I mean, that is an amazing following, right? And I love that they come back, but I also love the person that says, I've never been here. I wish I would have come earlier, and I will be back for another class, and I'm going to bring a friend with me next time, right? So that shows that, that the secret sauce is working.
Going to places like the NFA, so many of us reside in a level of comfort where we don't know what we don't know, right? Especially, it seems like the more we know, the more we realize how little we know. And going to places like the NFA and taking coursework at the NFA, as well as FDIC and FRI and some of the other great conferences out there. For me, I end up in a hallway meeting with someone or on campus in Emmitsburg, and I'm 5 minutes into the conversation and I realize I don't know a thing about about fire. And so being able to go and have those conversations and to take that coursework is wildly valuable. Superintendent Gabliks, I cannot thank you enough for taking the time, for being with us. So much great information. Everybody that's online here, I love that you're being called force multipliers. Go out there, spread the word. In the chat, there are some links provided by Superintendent Gabliks. Thank you for that. So copy those before we shut down the recording here. Chief Barker, President Barker, thank you very much for being online with us. Much appreciated. Thanks for fixing your mic. That's awesome. Emily, who really runs the show here, thank you so much. And anybody else, you can find me on LinkedIn, my new LinkedIn after I was hacked. Thank you for that, hackers. But you can find me on LinkedIn. Find me, any questions, concerns, anything that I can ever do for any of you, please reach out, especially regarding the ISFSI. Thank you, and have a great day.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Eriks.
Everybody, thank you.
Have a good afternoon.
Thank you.
Thanks, Eriks.
Thank you, everybody. See you in Indy.